There is huge, unprecedented value in deciding to know yourself. Also, I'm not peeing. I'm getting ready for work. And I have this message on my mind and on my heart this morning. So I still want to talk you guys through it while I get ready. So that was me making my coffee for the morning. But anyways, let's get back into it, right? So there's huge value in knowing yourself. And something that I always say, to know someone is to love someone, right? So everyone in this life, even the people that you think are the most despicable, deplorable people on this earth, they are loved by somebody, even if it's just, their parents, or they're sick and twisted, it's just themselves, or even these people that you think are rotting in jail for, heinous crimes. They have women writing them in prison, falling in love with them, right? So to know someone is to love someone. If those people are capable of love, how much more capable or worthy of love? I think everyone is. Let me not. Some people you hear just the craziest things, but yes, ultimately, right? To know someone is to love someone. So if those horrible, despicable, wicked people are capable of love, what more you and why not you, right? But going further than that, if to know someone is to love someone, and let me actually zoom out a little bit, or zoom in a little bit, because that's a really stark example of knowing someone and loving them anyway. But I think I bring it up because for those of you out there that are listening that maybe don't love themselves yet or know themselves yet very well, it can shake you awake a little bit of, why do I nitpick myself on every little thing? Why am I so mean to myself? If some of the worst people on this planet are still getting love and affection and validation from the people around them, why is it so difficult for me to grant that same privilege of even just accepting my own flaws, even just acceptance? I think true love is just, acceptance, right? Why is it so hard for me to give that to myself? And that's why I give you the big, horrible, wicked example of okay, think about the prisoners in jail who do those horrible things. Even they are loved, right? And people are complex. But maybe to take a more specific example that's closer to real life, I think when I think about our generation and they talk about, catching feelings for someone, right? Or just the movie trope, don't fall in love with me, or we're just fake dating, or whatever, right? People try to get into these intimate settings with other people and convince themselves they're not going to care. And then no matter what they initially said, even if they know on paper all the reasons why this person's wrong for them, whatever, they catch feelings. They start liking the person. They start loving the person. Because why? Because to know someone is to love someone. And knowing someone isn't just, I know all the facts on paper that describe this human being and their, present state of life, because are you the feds? What, right? You're not a government ID, right? But that can be part of your knowledge of them, and that can be what makes you love them. But it can also be the little things, knowing what they smell like when they wake up in the morning, knowing their facial expression when they sleep. That's really, really intimate. Or knowing what, direction their smile tilts towards when they're happy. Or I remember recently I was out with these two new friends that I made that are just such wonderful people that I met recently. And they know each other so well, right? They travel as a pair, they work together. And I thought this was such a sweet moment. But the guy coworker was telling and they're more than coworkers, they're great friends, right? But the guy was telling the girl, when you're really, really excited, your nostrils flare because your nose crinkles because you're so excited in the conversation. And then it made, when she really likes someone, right? Because she's like me, she's someone who's very expressive and has a very expressive face. So when she's enjoying a conversation or enjoying someone, it's quite obvious. And it made me think back to moments that I knew she had done that when we had been speaking as we got to know each other, because we really clicked from the beginning. But I was like, what a beautiful little thing, right? And the moment just passed just like that. I didn't even comment on this at the time, but it's what a beautiful thing that he knows her so well, that he knows the way her nose changes because she's enjoying a conversation, or she's laughing, or she's having a good time. What a beautiful little detail to know about someone. But to know someone is to love someone. So it's to notice the things, even the nonverbal things, right? That's not necessarily a concrete fact about this woman, though I'm sure he knows those too. But to know someone is to love someone. So yeah, when it even comes to things as silly as like situationships, relationships of any kind, that classic, romance movie trope we were raised on, even when you try to not love someone, if they're in your proximity for long enough and you give them a chance and you get to know them, you will eventually grow to love them or feel some type of way about them. The opposite of love is not hate. So even your dislike for someone in some way, I won't be so toxic and say it's some kind of an expression of love. But, for me, I believe the opposite of love is indifference. So to know someone is to care on some level, even if it's not positive, right? To even make it more general. But the reason I even wanted to talk about it this morning about the great, great, incredible value of knowing yourself is not only does, I'm sure from everything I've said, not only does knowing yourself likely mean you will love yourself, right? Assuming you give yourself a chance, because a lot of people don't treat themselves the way they would a stranger. They don't treat themselves the way they would a friend, a family member, a loved one. There's a special wickedness. There's a special scrutiny that we view ourselves through very specifically. So as much as you might be a judgmental person to the world around you, those kinds of people, sometimes you turn that flashlight inwards and it's just like they are looking for every skeleton in the closet, or they're inventing ones if there's nothing there, and they're finding ways to tear themselves apart. And so and some people even are really gentle with the people in the world around them, and they don't want to pass judgments because they know how harsh they can be with themselves. So unfortunately, I won't say we, because I don't identify with this anymore, and I'm really careful around language. Like, I don't want to step back into that kind of an identity. But yeah, a lot of people, and I'll say we then, from like a past version of myself, perhaps, that maybe would have done this at times. Yeah, like we weaponize our knowledge of ourselves because we know ourselves sometimes intimately in ways others don't, or we fixate on our flaws, or we just hold ourselves to a much, much higher standard than others. And that's why you'll also hear the advice people give of, treat yourself the way you would a friend, right? So if your friend came to you about a problem, either a social issue that they're having in their relationship or in their social life, or an academic issue or a career issue or a life issue of literally any kind, how would you talk to your friend? Even if you gave them tough love, it would be love at the end of the day. Tough love is not just tough, right? So you wouldn't shit on your friend, or even if you gave them, some tough criticism, you wouldn't expect them to ruminate on it, and you wouldn't just drill it into their head every 5 seconds, right? You wouldn't make it this brutal examination, or of course, maybe even if it's a very honest examination, and you're that kind of friend, right? Criticism is an act of love. Like, you wouldn't make it a brutal experience for them to receive it, right? Maybe you'd give them that honesty or criticism in the most loving way you knew how. So when it's yourself, why is it all of a sudden you are, I don't even know the words, because let's all remove them from our vocabulary, but like, why is it that you set aside the meanest and most wicked ways to address yourself only when it's yourself, but you would never speak to a friend that way? So as you even carry out this exercise of trying to know yourself or being gentle with yourself, remember that you are a person just like anyone else in your life. And would you rather be loved by someone that loves themselves or loved by someone that hates themselves? Like, you want to, if you can't be better just for yourself, be better for the sake of those around you, because someone who is pouring into their own cup always has more to give and can give more abundantly, less selfishly, and regardless, even from a selfish perspective, like, you deserve it just as much as your friend does. So yes, like, you deserve the consideration, the acceptance, and is gentleness the word? The patience, like, have patience with yourself. But yes, beyond to knowing yourself, leading to this love for yourself on a level, I also say this because I've noticed this in my own life. So for me, for a long time, I was very inward. I'm a very social person. I love being around people. I love talking to people. I love learning people, right? So for me, I can fall in love in a second because, and if I see something I love about someone, I tell you, it's compulsive. So that's the kind of person that I am. And even being like that for many, many years in recent history, I was much more in my shell, much more selective about the people that were in my life, the people that I was talking to on a regular basis, the energy that I was allowing in, the scrutiny that I was even allowing in by putting myself out there online or anything like that, to varying levels over recent history. I've been much more introverted than I ever was in the past. And even though I know there are sides to me that are introverted in some ways, yes, I know that I'm a very social person. And I say all this because now that I am giving myself room to say, you know what, I've done all of this internal work and I'm in a good place and I'm ready to welcome people into my life again. What I've noticed is that all of that time I spent with myself, I really know myself. So even when I'm thinking about something or I'm thinking about a situation or I'm like noticing patterns in my behavior now that I'm like back in the social sphere at all, still not even like in a crazy way, but back in the social sphere at all, when I find that it's interesting almost to learn something new about myself because I've obviously spent so much time with myself. So I just know myself really, really, really well. And it's interesting also as I meet new people and I exercise this discernment that I've trained myself on about, you know, who should really still have access to me, who shouldn't, who should only have limited access to me and whatever, right? It's also interesting to meet people who really clearly don't know themselves. And that's what has made me realize that that is such an asset to your life, and not just in the financial sense of, you know, and yeah, it is like knowing yourself, knowing what you love, knowing what fulfills you, knowing what makes you tick, knowing what kinds of activities you enjoy. You can build a life around that you really, really love and enjoy but it's founded on that I know what I actually want, because otherwise you end up just kind of going with the tide of what you're supposed to want, never actually pausing to explore, do I care about the things they tell me I need to care about? Or do I really not give a shit about those things at all and they do nothing for me, right? But that's all founded on self-discovery, because unless you know yourself, you can't make those decisions, right? But it's so interesting, beyond that practical, tangible sense of, okay, I'm building a life for myself, work-wise or whatever it is. Even beyond that, just when I meet people that don't know themselves, when I meet people that clearly have insecurities they've never paused to question, clearly have habits founded in insecurities that they've never paused to question, right? And I realized, wow, there is so much self-discovery you've not done yet. So I think I get this a lot where I talk to people, because I'm one of those people where, not like, okay, I'm talking about inappropriate things at the wrong setting, but you know, maybe like, okay, for example, you go for a job interview, because I got this feedback recently from my family members. Like, you go for a job interview and you think I'm going to talk about job interview related things and safe topics. Like, nothing unexpected would really come to mind that might come up in a job interview. But for me, a conversation is a conversation. It literally doesn't matter who I'm talking to. The only thing I know is that, okay, we're in a work setting, probably shouldn't bring up sex. Like that, these are the bounds for me, right? But anything else on like an emotional, spiritual plane, social plane, especially social plane, because I'm always observing the world around me, so I always have opinions on like everything. But like anything else for me, within the confines of what's like appropriate for work, right? Anything that's not NSFW or not safe for work, I will talk about it with anyone. So it doesn't matter if I just met you. It doesn't matter if this is in an interview. It doesn't matter if you're a super senior person at some finance firm place and you make way more money than me. It really doesn't matter. If the conversation drifts a certain direction, or I feel like compelled to say something because I've made it a connection to something in my head, I will take the conversation there. And that can lead to very unexpected conversations with people that And it's not like I'm doing it on purpose. It just really depends on the day, depends on the person, depends on the topic, just depends on so many factors, right? But I think what this means, though, is that I will get this comment sometimes from people who maybe didn't expect it. You expect like a cookie cutter interview or a networking conversation or whatever it is. And they will just be like, how do you know all this stuff? You know, like not even from a knowledge sense, because if you know me personally, you know that my general knowledge of just like facts about the world is like both expansive and like zero, like pop culture, celebrity names, song names. I will know the gist of what I'm trying to say, and that's the best. I can give you an essence of the song I'm remembering, but I couldn't tell you a lyric. Like, that's the kind of person I am. Unfortunately, when it comes to like pop culture, trivia stuff, it depends. However, at the same time, from like a lived experience, like, oh, this person has thought about this kind of way, there's very little I don't think about or that I'm not willing to think about even in the moment, and then have something to say on. So I talk to people, conversations go the directions that they go, and I get that comment a lot where it's like, how do you know this, like at this age or whatever? And I really think the answer to that question is that I know myself. I've lived and I've seen things, and I'm not just letting the information like come in and like pass through. That's a great thing to do when it comes to not harboring resentment, or obviously like you have your emotion in the moment, you let things go. I think I do that from that perspective, but at the same time, I'm always using everything as data. And I think that also helps with not being mean to yourself. Everything for me is data. Anytime I fuck up, it's data. Ooh, trying not to swear on this podcast anymore, but yeah. Anytime I mess up, it's data. Anytime I fall on my face, it's data. Anytime I embarrass myself, it's data. Anytime I have, there's no bad outcome. Because, like, think about it logically, right? Your bad outcomes lead you to your best outcomes. Like, everything that happens to you in this life is connected to something else. So if you are so mad that one day in the 7th grade you tripped over your binder in the middle of the hallway, I did it. I laughed my head off and everyone looked at me like I was crazy because I like never spoke when I was at that school for whatever reason. So I was just like lying on the floor laughing hysterically, and they're like, "Is this bitch okay?" Like, that actually looked like it hurt. But anyways, right? If you are so embarrassed in the moment that happened to you, and so devastated, and you're like, oh my God, everybody saw me. And obviously you're a kid, so you don't even know not to be embarrassed. But say it happened when you were older, and you just like cannot seem to let go of this moment. Maybe because you tripped, this is really, really dramatic, but maybe because you tripped, you didn't, walk outside at a certain time at the end of the day, or you were behind, like exiting the school, and then you avoided some horrible thing, or you bumped into someone that ends up becoming like your best friend. It's almost like I think they call it the butterfly effect, right? Like, you don't know how these things are interconnected, but they 100% are, right? Or you'll see these people when they have people who have like near-death experiences. Literally, if anything differently had happened in your day, you might have been in the wrong position and been hurt or been affected or been whatever it is, right? So all of the things in your life are interconnected. So if all of your worst moments are exactly the reason why you experienced your best moments, and obviously everybody's life is different, but you just have to say, are you willing to trade? Or if you've not had moments yet where you're like totally worth it, you don't even know what's to come. So maybe the suffering you've experienced thus far that feels endless, that feels like a pit, that feels like nothing good is coming out of this, like nothing will ever change, maybe that will lead you to the happiest day of your life that finally makes you feel like, you know what, it was worth it. I'm so glad I'm here. I'm so glad I trusted the process. I'm so glad I overcame. Because I can tell you, that's always how I feel. And so because of that, it's like, okay, why would I regret? Like, why would I even bother to take the time when I know all of these things are interconnected? I won't even lie, guys. I'm trying to like retrace my steps here a little bit, because luckily on voice memo you can like pause and rewind and whatever. And I'm like, how did we get here? Genuinely, like usually I can at least listen to something back and be like, what was I saying again? And I won't apologize for that anymore, because I know I made an episode about like not apologizing, about letting my mind wander, because like, I mean, it's a podcast, I would hope. at least at this point that we know why we're here. But I genuinely today, I'm like, what are we talking about? I think we got here at some point before because we were talking about, well, obviously to know yourself is to love yourself, blah, 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 how that can be wonderful for your life, accepting things that go wrong for you. But originally I was saying something along the lines of people wondering how it is that I even think the way I do, or I have come to this point where I have not even opinions on things, because I feel like that's flat, but just like there's a level of maybe depth, I think, that's a bit unexpected. And to be fair, if you're just like kind of bringing this out at random moments, then maybe that's especially unexpected. But obviously it's a two-way street, and we engage in conversation, and the person has things to add as well. And that's why I love having conversations where I don't feel bounded with people in general, because I'm like, I wonder what nugget this person has, right, that I'm about to uncover that maybe we didn't expect. And it doesn't matter the setting. I'm always going to do that if I'm given the opportunity to go deeper with a person. But ultimately, what I've noticed as I become more social and I put myself back out there and I'm meeting new people is that knowing yourself is just crucial. It's just foundational to so many things. And like I said, it's a practical thing, but it also allows you to evolve. So yesterday I was giving advice to a friend, and they're younger than me, and they were like, oh, I really feel like I just need a break because I need to like think through some of these things that you're talking about and all this stuff. And I'm like, it's not like you even sit down one day and like actively think like, well, I mean, it helps too, right? Sit down and like grab a journal and just start writing and do that work to like uncover sides to yourself you'd never really question. I definitely think that's wonderful and so worthwhile. But I also think it's something that you just become conscious of, right? So I'm planting the seed, right? I'm planting the seed with you in case you aren't always consciously doing it. You just become conscious of it, that like, my life is an experience. The things around me are information. What does it say? Everything is a win when the goal is experience, right? So nothing is failure. Everything is data. Everything is helping me evolve. Everything is teaching me what I like and what I don't like, but I won't know unless I see it. So you can't really come to these conclusions. You can't sharpen yourself without a little bit of friction, like we've talked about. The sculptor and the sculpture, the clay, the stone, chiseling is not the most comfortable thing, and things need to be stripped away. Things need to be, sharp and hurt a little bit sometimes. But ultimately you emerge as this masterpiece. You like uncover this artwork. And so knowing yourself is that process as well. And it's something that happens over time. But I also think it's very easy to slip into, okay, this is my everyday, and you start to form your life, like you start to form your mind around your life. And I think it's really beautiful to be super intentional about your mind. Because when I even say to know yourself, I really mean your mind. How your mind works. Is your mind a safe place for your thoughts? Is your mind a garden that's getting watered, in the sense that you take care of how you feel, and all of these things like that? Like when I say mind, I really just mean like your internal world, right? So do you know your internal world? Because your internal world is what is the filter for everything around you. And I think a lot of people form their internal world around their experiences without questioning why they did that, or if it's actually the best thing they can do. So for example, let's say I grew up, like even me, I've done this, like, okay, I grew up around white people, and I noticed I would be very perceptive as a kid. I would notice if I felt like boys weren't making eye contact with me, but they'd make eye contact with my friends, or they'd come talk to my friends and act like I wasn't standing there and stuff like that. So over time, I just kind of put my internal world around this. I remember literally going home from school one day in the 7th grade and being like, well, like, I don't know, I guess I'm ugly. Like, I just took it as, luckily, I feel like, as horrible as it sounds, I took it as well as a 7th grade girl can take these things. And I was like, I guess I'm ugly, but it is what it is. And I will just focus on having other qualities. I'll be funny and kind and smart and whatever, because, you know, clearly being a bad bitch, like, it's not for me. Like I said, I'm shit out of luck in that business. Like, genuinely, I remember the moment in the 7th grade at Knox Junior High in Texas being like, yeah, this beauty thing is not for me. It's not looking too good. Definitely felt invisible at that school, you know, and I formed my internal world around this judgment I had about like my experiences. But ultimately, like, I didn't question that for years. And so even as my external world shifted, I was filtering it through an internal world. So as much as I was super appreciative of compliments, because words have always meant a lot to me. I'm someone that I love to compliment people. I think it spreads joy. And I think if you take the time out of your day to say something to me, I think it's really sweet no matter what it is, honestly. And it doesn't have to be about beauty at all. But even as my external world shifted, I did not question my internal world until I was literally in my 20s. Keep in mind, I think I made this decision when I was like 13. So, or less. So imagine that, right? And that's when I say, like, to know yourself is to love yourself, because imagine if I never went back and said, okay, it's starting to look a little spooky. I don't understand why I feel this way so deeply. Maybe I need to do some work. And I did. I have to do affirmations and try to uncover why I had this deep-seated belief. And when I first started doing the work, it was very uncomfortable. I would cry. Like, being nice to myself felt so foreign at the time. But now, after that little 1 month, I'm like, I feel completely revolutionarily different than I did when I was a kid. But I had to do that internal work. But yes, like I was saying, right? People don't question their internal world. They don't question what experiences have led them to certain conclusions. They just have this internal world as an adult. And maybe this is the seed that makes you think, why do I think that way? Why do I assume this? Why do I find myself avoiding interactions? Is it because I genuinely don't like being around my friends, or do I not like being the one to initiate plans? Like, some people have those quirks, right? Of like, oh, I don't like to double text. I don't like to look needy and all of this stuff. But like, why don't you like it, right? Have you done that self-discovery to know why you don't like it? Because perhaps it's a much more freeing, less anxiety-inducing life to live on the other side of things and not give a shit about double texting, to love your friends out loud. If they're the kind of person that makes you feel like you're questioning reaching out to them because you feel desperate in X, Y, and Z, maybe it's because it's actually just not a reciprocal relationship. And then it's more so, I shouldn't be around people I don't feel valued around. I should be around people that I feel comfortable being expressive around, right? So then that's a shift in how you approach something, because now you're questioning your internal world and what drives the decisions that you're making. Because like I said, it filters literally everything. And when you're not questioning the filter, you assume that the way you're seeing things, the way you interpret your issues, the way even the problems that you have, to some extent or to a very large extent, are determined by your internal world. So to someone, maybe living in their parents' house, it makes them a disgrace. To another person, living in their parents' house, gives them access to their parents, and they love their parents and they have a great close relationship, or it's a cultural difference and blah, blah, blah. Same exact fact, totally different interpretation. So maybe there are things, yes, of course, in life that are objectively just not ideal. However, your internal world literally filters your viewpoint on everything. So it filters your pain, it filters your suffering, it filters what gives you pain or suffering, it filters what gives you joy. It filters why you get that joy, but the why is not explicit, right? So your brain won't always just tell you, this is why I feel this way about this. It might just have a very strong emotional reaction to something that you've never sat down to question. And that's why I think it's such an asset to truly know yourself, because to know yourself and assess this internal world that you live in allows you to shape it. And then that allows you to filter these experiences that you're having until maybe you do come to this conclusion that you aren't afraid to fail. So then you don't hold yourself to some kind of unbelievable pillar of perfectionism and all of these things, because you find joy in just trying, right? But again, that's still an internal world shift that you have to make if you don't already feel that, if you don't already do that naturally. And to know yourself gives you space to not be mean and wicked, because we started off this episode talking about the importance of treating yourself with the kindness and love that you would someone that you care deeply about. And if you don't care about people, you're someone that's like, I don't fuck with people, I don't like my family, I don't like my friends, I don't have a romantic partner. That's fine. You don't have to like people, but maybe like an animal. I don't know. There's something in this life that you like. Maybe it's even something inanimate. Maybe you really like candles or clouds or shiny things, whatever it is, right? Treat yourself like you would something you cherish or someone you cherish. But yeah, assess that internal world, dig around in there, see what's going on, see what's driving things, see what the story is, and then shape the story. Like, it's like code, right? Like, if you don't know how to code, then whatever is in front of you on your computer, and I don't know how to code, so this might not be the perfect analogy, but whatever's in front of your computer is a fixed experience. I don't know how to change it. I don't know how to make a computer. I don't know how to change the code that makes websites run a certain way or do X, Y, and Z. But if I knew how to code, if I learned how to code, right? That's that knowledge is power, to know yourself, right? If I learned how to code, if I learned what my code was, then I can also edit my code. I can change things. I can delete things. I can add things. And all of that affects the output. But it's much easier, or it's not easier, maybe. It takes a bit more thought, but it's much more permanent of a change to address that core issue, which is the code, than it is to say, like, oh, I'm just going to keep getting frustrated at the fact that when I type on Word, the automatic font is black. Okay, well, they designed the software to make the font black. If I want that changed, I need to go in there and, I don't know, computer shit, but you know what I mean? Like, I would need to go and change that instead of continuously being mad at that result. And so you may notice it in your life. People start with the issues more often than not, right? But yeah, the things that you don't even like in your life, if you start there, maybe there's a pattern informing why you always feel that way. And you have to go change the code. So I hope this episode is helpful. It was much longer than it was supposed to be. And I said I would be getting ready for my day while chatting with you all, but I always get sucked into our conversations. Also, I've been seeing you guys like comments on YouTube and stuff like that. And you know, a tiny few comments on Spotify as well. So thank you guys for leaving your comments and sharing your thoughts. Especially on YouTube, I like, you guys are so intimate on here. I guess I should say on here, right? In case you're actually listening on YouTube right now. But thank you for sharing your thoughts, right? Like, this is a community and we're building it very, very, very slowly. And I love that. And I really love the idea that I get to be the farmer and I plant a seed. I'm not like an outsidey person. I'm scared of bugs. But in this way, I get to kind of plant the seed. And when I hear that that it's really taken root, and you know, you guys are like, ooh, I like this seed, I'm going to water it and stuff. It's very exciting for me. So thank you for sharing your experience and your resonance with the things I say. And if you have any feedback or questions or topics you want to talk about, of course, let me know. You can reach me on any of my socials. Like, the link is in the description, the beacons link or whatever, but it's just at Live Lumani, like everywhere. You can find me in the comments. You can send me a message on other socials. I've like removed TikTok and Instagram from my phone. I feel like it's ruining my life. I'm not getting enough sleep. But yeah, I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here. Sorry for the jump scare at the beginning. If I was on the toilet, I promise I'd tell you. If you didn't know me in that way, being on my other social medias might have told you that. I really don't care. But no, that was just my coffee. Love you guys so much. Hope you have the best day. And what else do I usually say at this point? Oh yeah, don't forget to follow the podcast or follow on YouTube or wherever you're listening. And I will see you next time. La 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 la. What else? I never remember what to say in this outro. I will see you next time. Have a lovely day. And if you uncover one thing about yourself today, what is it? Like, what came up as I was talking, if anything did come to mind? And maybe we get the chance to get to know you as you get to know yourself as well. Much blessings. See you next time.